DJ, how often do we think of becoming DJs? We go to a party, we're like, oh my god, that dude is so rocking and he's just like making everybody dance. So we thought, why not get one on the episode? So this episode, we present you Dhruv. He's a DJ by profession, DJ by passion, and DJ by every other means. So let's get started. I have a difficult question also, like a really difficult one. If you don't have business, if you don't have a secondary place for income, do you think financially it is like viable?
No, you can't. In today's date, you can't. Until unless you're on the top, you can't.
How do you keep up with all the new things that come up?
Yeah, it's very simple. You take one.
So we have this thing on our podcast. We like to end with like a one-line question, like you answer in one line. If you were to go back to 2004, knowing everything that you've learned since then till now, and you were to face your parents knowing all of this and tell them something, what would it be?
I would have told them that. Hi, my name is Dhruv Bhatia. So I have been a DJ by passion and a businessman by profession. So, it all starts a long way back, right from 2004, when I actually got into the music bug. And that's how the journey begins, it's a very long journey. And of course, it's a very interesting one as well.
Let's take it from the beginning. Where does the journey begin?
So it started off in 2004, basically when... So we had I still remember because I had completed my class 10 board exams that time. And, we were still trying to figure out what we want to do. And of course, the music bug was always there, it had already... So we had a small party at home. And then that time there weren't... so that time DJing was a very big... it was a very big aspect, having a DJ at home for your party because we didn't have too many DJs around that time. So my sister had, of course, called in a DJ around that time. And then, when I actually saw the equipment and everything, I got pretty fascinated by the entire thing. So I think my only question to him was, bro, how do you remember where your songs are and how do you actually know when to play what? So very nicely he opened this folder and he showed me, this is how we list our songs, because that time there were CDs around that time. We didn't have pen drive and all even. So you were in the era of CDs. How you label your CDs and how you write your songs. So my only concern was memorizing, what to play when and where the songs are. But that was the only concern, how I'm going to memorize where all my songs are. So then he showed me, how we list our CDs and how we list our songs and all. So then that is the day I decided, I told my parents I want to be a DJ. So initially they were, it's just a phase because he doesn't know what he wants to do, right? We just still trying to figure out. तब तक वो बात हो चुका था कि I want to be a DJ and this, and I try to figure out my way कि how I want to do. So then actually during those breaks, so my dad just told me one thing, that you have a break for 2 months. You see if you like it. And then if you want to go ahead with it, it's fine. But of course, they weren't very happy, because you come from a business family background. You think, kya kar raha hai? So I said, okay, fine, take it. Then I got to know that my dad's friend has a mini banquet, So I spoke to him. So I said, whenever you have a party, you let me know, I'll just come in. So he said, okay, whenever we have a party, you just come down. So I went out there and I just seeing other DJs play and, So then on that year, on the 31st, I got my first party in 2004. So a friend offered me my first party. And imagine, we didn't have any equipment even. We just had one DVD player and one VCD player and those faders, and just do the faders up and down. And my parents were in Bombay that time, and I actually hid. I just told my sister that I'm going to play because I didn't want them to know, that I'm pursuing with this thing. So my first 31st, my first show was a hidden show, I went, I played and I came back. So that is the day I got my first income even, I still remember. So that's how then the journey went. So then we went school. So 11, 12, we didn't do much. I didn't play much because it was always, But of course, in school, I used to tell everyone, that I've become a DJ and, I've got the entire collection. But that time we had to make a lot of collection as well, because that time we had to sit down, download each and every song because songs weren't available easily that time. तो रात रात भर स्कूल से वापस आके रात रात भर लैपटॉप में बैठो और एक एक गाने डाउनलोड करो. And then in first year of college, I remember I joined someone. So I joined my mentor DJ Vicky around that. So then I started playing, I started learning, how to interact and everything. I started learning from him. But then gradually, then in 2009, I think, 2009, then I had to take a break for a year. Because there was got more involved in business and everything. But that music thing was always there, because I used to regularly practice at home. I used to come over, practice at home. And then in 2010, finally, then I decided that, since now my business is set, I'm looking after it. So I will follow my passion as well. And then from 2010, then I got into it full time. And then it's been a beautiful journey after that.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is that you've mentioned business. What is that? And is it still going on? And what is it now? And then the second question is that DJing in India specifically, especially at 2004, 2009, at that time, it is not the most glorious thing to do.
Yeah.
Because the image around DJing was not as awesome as Goa is now, or like, the party scene now is. It has changed a lot, which we will get to. But what allowed you to push yourself around that thinking of the society? Like, what allowed you to take the jump?
So actually, I had a difficult time, convincing everyone, because so that time, if I used to tell anyone that I'm a DJ, they used to say, what you're doing, you're just doing time pass in your life, there's nothing about it. But I always had this thing, if you're actually doing something, if you're following your passion, you should do it in a very, you should just continue with it and you should do it, finally, if you're doing it in the right way, you'll reach somewhere. So that's how, because I always believe that if you follow your heart and you're doing it, so you will reach somewhere, in your life. And see, visualization plays a very important part in my life, Even, so we'll come to that later, I'll tell you how we prepare for our shows even today, whenever we prepare. But that time even, I used to visualize that I'm playing at big parties and, so of course, that time I didn't know what visualization is all about, but I still remember now when I think about it, like constantly you've been thinking. So that time we had an image, that you have become a DJ, have become a star. So that was the entire image around that time because you were in school, you were in college around that. But then once you actually get deep into it and you know the entire aspects and everything, so it's a beautiful ride. But of course, you need a lot of effort to continue with that. It's not that, you download songs and then you just go and play. There's a lot of effort and everything behind it. But that is the thing.
So what is the business that you're doing alongside
So
your DJ
basically,
career?
I'm into textiles. So we are basically into your garments industry where we supply all your Indo-Western wear and your shirting wear, all your raw fabrics. So we basically supply all over Bengal. We export it. We export them. And of course, I've started off with a new trend of corporate uniforms. So that I plan to take it big, that I plan to take it global.
That's your baby.
Yeah, that's my baby.
Lovely. So getting back to DJing again, from 2004 to 2010, which you say was the period that you were in school, but you were not looking at it full time. What did you do to keep in touch? How did you grow? What was your process in the initial years? And then we will move on afterwards. But how did you develop?
When I was in school, so in 2004, so that time we didn't have the aspect, we didn't know what nightclubs are all about even. So we weren't allowed or we never got the taste of going to nightclubs. So our only link to DJing was music. So my first thing was where to download music from, because we didn't have, so that time music wasn't very accessible or something because we didn't know where to download music.
LimeWire.
So LiveWire was there, Cool Toad was there a couple of other things, yeah. But then that time we didn't know. We used to buy CDs, so that time CDs were expensive. I still remember, we used to buy CDs for 200, 300 rupees.
I remember the whole transition from like floppies to CDs to like actually getting like heavier CDs with more than just one album in it. And then, Now we don't even discuss about it anymore.
You had to format your CD as a optical drive or as an MP3. The MP3 could
MP3,
hold
MP3 could hold.
15 songs or 16 songs, and the other one could hold like 7 songs. I think that's
Imagine we
what
used
it
to
was.
get this pack of Mozart CDs. There used to be 10 CDs in a pack. And we used to like for all our pocket money which we used to get. So we never used to go to restaurants and, burn that out. So my interest was going and buying those stack of CDs, So my entire room had stack of CDs. Yeah, empty CDs because we used to get 10 CDs around that time. And that CDs used to be around what, 10 rupees? No, that CD when in 2004 I'm talking used to be around 50 rupees a CD. Then later on it came down to 10 rupees a CD. So that entire stack used to come down to 500 rupees. Oh, we used to download, and even during our school days when we were studying even, so we used to download. We used to, रात रात भर बैठ के we were only downloading songs. लोग पढ़ाई करते थे, हम लोग बैठ के गाने डाउनलोड कर रहे उससे हम. ये हालत थी. तो फिर उसके बाद ठीक है, then college came, then college we got our first taste of what nightclub is all about. Then we started going to the nightclubs to see, how it's happening, what is happening. But of course, then you actually decide whether, coming down the thing that time you had to decide whether you wanted to be a private party DJ or a nightclub DJ. Because these two are different genres again. So then of course I couldn't give times to club because then that business pressure came in.
What's the difference?
The difference between a nightclub and a private party is, say for a private party DJ, you're the guest man. You have to play what the guest wants basically. Because ultimately what I believe in, if a person's coming to my party and if he requests any particular song, my duty is to play that song, and by the time he goes home, he's satisfied. But for a nightclub, it is very different because you have to play according to specific BPM. You got to play according to the flow. You got to play according to, you can't just randomly switch songs in between. So you have to play according to every flow and every BPM that you follow. But for a private party, at times it is easier because, when a person's coming in with any particular guest and request, and if he wants that request, you can just, switch your songs, or, you can just play that. At least that person happy when he's going back home.
Can you explain BPM quickly, like for the audience?
So BPM is beat per minute. So every particular song has a particular BPM. Suppose if you're playing a track which is of low tempo, that must be ranging between 90 to 110. And then if you have a particular Bollywood song that may, up-tempo Bollywood song that may range between 120 to 135. And then you go down to your house music, which is again from 130 to 140. And so on. So that is, every particular track has a particular BPM. So that's another technical flow because every song has a bar. So that bar has around 4 beats. So you have to calculate all those 4 beats. So because every 4 to 16 beats, the bar changes.
Hit the like button down there. The one that looks like this. The thumbs up button. It really helps us. It'll help you. And we'll get more of them. Thumbs up. Remember. Click it down. We live in a very information-filled world now, right? In 2023, we are in it. Can't even believe it's 23 already, right? And we just go to YouTube. So we want to learn podcasting. We recommend go to YouTube, on Google search. And you want to learn how to edit video, go to YouTube. Edit audio, go to YouTube. 2004 to 2009, when you started off, that was not the case. There were barely any people on YouTube, if there was YouTube in India as it is now. What was your source of information? And what do you think now the new DJs or the new aspiring DJs who might be listening to this episode, what do you think their source of information should be?
So when I started,
I am going to add to that question. DJing is also a very equipment heavy thing. You have to have your required equipment to learn, and that equipment does not come cheap. So how did you go about that as well?
So we used to hire equipment. I still remember, we used to
rent equipment.
So around that time, I never said no to a show. So that time my only thing was to play. I have gone to the remote of places in Calcutta to go and play. So that time my vision was, I used to hire cars and go to Barasat, go to places where, and just play around that time. So my entire concentration was, I want to play. So that time money was not that big a factor. Name wasn't that big a factor. He said, I just want to go and play. So that's how my journey started, because I used to hire equipment because I didn't have equipment of my own, because that time equipment was expensive. I mean, they still are now, but that time we didn't have money to go and purchase it. So, and I had decided from day one that I won't take 1 rupee from my family where my passion is concerned. So this is my baby. I want to nourish it on my own. I want to grow on my own. So we used to hire players and we used to go and play in them. So that's how we used to. But then, so that time we didn't have any place to practice because we didn't have a thing of our own. So that time our only thing was used to, prepare our songs. So practice in our mind was going to be playing after what. And that's how the journey started. When I joined someone, when I joined my mentor, DJ Vicky, so then that's how I got to know, how you interact with the crowd and, how you actually prepare your entire set. And then that's how the journey began professionally in college, because that's how then we learned, because before that, we just had one DVD player, one VCD player, we used to go and play and come. And then after that, we started hiring equipment. But then that entire flow and that entire thing was in there. But then then in 2010, when I actually bought in my entire players and everything. But in 2009, I had, that entire thing when I had taken a break. That entire break I had practiced tremendously, because then I had cut out all distractions. I used to just sit at home and practice.
There's this thing, dance my puppets, right? Like you get the ability to make people dance to your own tunes and your own tones and your own BPMs, right? People that want to do it now, how much capital will it take? Like now that we are at the topic of money, how much money does it take to actually become a DJ today?
Now, so it's become an entire different ball game. And see, now you've got different software. Like you've got Serato coming in. People. So Serato is only supported on your MacBook. So for that, you have to have a really strong MacBook, and that software has to be there. And then your players are there, your equipments are there. So it depends, like how you want to pursue and what you want to do. Like I still play on pen drive. I don't use the Serato. So all depends, what you actually want to do, because now you have visuals coming in. You have a lot of every song that you're playing has a particular visual or a video behind. So that can only be done by software. So in today's date, if you actually want to spend, you got to spend a lot of enormous amount, because you got to be updating yourself. You got to be with the flow all the time. You got to know what is happening.
Can you put a number to the enormity?
Yeah, it depends, because the equipment that have started coming in now are ranging from 1.5 to somewhere around 7 lakhs. So that is the cost of the equipment now. Of course, you don't have the cost of the CDs now because you have pen drive and everything. But then, of course, then if you want to get into your software, then you have to buy a really good MacBook. You got to buy a really good laptop. The MacBook must be somewhere around 2.5. So it's there, a lot of money is involved now.
So, Dhruv, one thing, since we're talking about software and talking about the different softwares that are available for DJing, you spoke about beats per minute and calculating when the bar changes. How much has that changed today thanks to software? Does that still need to be done, or does the software do that for you?
No, that hasn't changed. Okay, so see, the concept of the song and the genre of the song are still the same. Every song has its own particular BPM. It's become much more easier now is because so in our initial days when we actually started off, so that time we didn't have a BPM meter on in our equipment. So that time we had to calculate in our head. We had to concentrate and listen to the song, and you have to calculate like every 4 or 16 beats the bar is changing. But now you have a particular digital BPM reader. So that has become really easier now. Because then that BPM, because basically to mix both the songs, you got to match the BPMs right. So that particular BPM on both your players has to be matched right. So now that has become digitally easier. So now if you actually see with technology coming in, DJing has become a lot easier than what it was during our time.
Easier comes with competitive. Competitive comes with more people coming in.
So
Is
there are a
that
lot of people coming in. Yeah, I mean, now DJing has become a mass market. It's become a huge market. It's like, even of course, you even must be hearing it. You must be having so many friends who are DJs or something.
You know that friend of yours who's always wanted to be a DJ? Share this episode with them so they can go and do it right now. They can learn how to balance passion and profession like Dhruv.
Again, I think it goes back to what you said, where a lot of people are doing it, and you said the reaction that your parents had, that, oh, it's just a phase. And with a lot of people, it is just that, because as you said, there's more competition, there's more people coming in. You are required to be at the top of your game, at the top of your tech. It requires a fair amount of money. So for a lot of people, it sounds very great that, oh, I'm DJing on the side, or I'm going into becoming a DJ. It sounds very great, but it's not. I mean, as I'm sure you know it and you're talking about, it's not a very easy thing to do.
It's not, but no, now I think the market has become more open. People have become more broad-minded. So a lot of youngsters, even who are coming out from college and all, are opting a profession. They want to be a DJ full time. So you have so many clubs which are coming into Calcutta, which is great. You have so much of opportunity now. It's like an IPL. Similarly, like initially when we had cricket, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for cricketers to come down and play, right? So now since IPL is coming in, every person who's playing well gets an opportunity. So that's how DJing has become, because now you have tremendous amount of opportunity here. So imagine the growth of the industry, like right from DJs to event managers to weddings taking place. So during our time, wedding wasn't that big when we started off.
Now DJ is like almost one of the most important things in a wedding.
Yeah, it is. Because weddings are like it's grown. Like the level of wedding has increased so much. You know, so every person. So nowadays you have a 4-day event, you have a 5-day event. Initially we just had 2-day events. You had the Mehndi, you had the Sangeet, and you had the wedding. So now you have a 5-day event in which you want DJs for each and every function. So that market has it boomed. I feel you have a lot of scope and a lot of thing now in today's date.
let's go to 2009. So after you start DJing in 2004 till 2009, you start getting good and you start getting some gigs and start the ball rolling. And then you get into business. So what was that transition like for you? Did you feel like you're confined? Did you feel like you're jailed? Or were you like, oh, this is awesome?
No. When I actually started off with my business, I wasn't very, I wasn't very comfortable with the entire thing. Of course it is like with everyone. Like we used to go to office from 12 to 3, 12 to 4, and then come back home because we had to download songs. And even in office, you're constantly thinking about your songs and your tracks and everything. So it was a difficult phase, I think, for a year and a half or two.
So then what happened in 2010? What led to the change?
So in 2010, and once you start going to office, you get more involved in your work, you get more involved in business and all. So that's what the thing. Then you start enjoying both the worlds, and then you realize, yeah, okay, you can do your business as well. And then, yeah, because, acha, this is a very interesting thing, because people come up to me and tell me, dude, you're really lucky because you're following both your passion, your work and your passion as well. You're following both the thing. And it's not difficult. I mean, it's not at all difficult, because for your passion, if you actually have your passion, you just have to give it some time. So that's what happened in 2010. Then I realized, that, I mean, I'll try to give in both. I'll see how it goes. So then my thing that time was, if I can't join a nightclub because, I can't give it time. So I'll see how it goes. I'll concentrate more on the private party part and the private party section.
If there's a conflict between a time that has to be given to the business versus time that has to be given to an event, let's say a DJ event, which is higher priority?
Yeah, so basically what happens is whenever, of course, because being in a private party thing, you don't get events every day, right? So then we come to the preparing part that I was talking to you about. So suppose if, like, for example, if Vishnu's given me a date and I know so and so is my date around. So then we start preparing for that, a week or 2 weeks prior to that. What kind of songs are we going to be playing? What is going to be the flow? And see, for me, I visualize a lot. So I start visualizing and preparing before my show, how I'm going to be playing, and then people are dancing and what is going to be my flow. So knowing your music and preparing your music for that particular event is very important. So you got to know the pulse of the city, you got to know what the client wants.
So I was going to ask that question. So how much does the person you're playing for play a role in your preparation? So say, for example, as you give, say, I've given you an event, which is say 2 weeks from today. So would you speak to me 2 weeks from today and be like, hey, what kind of music are you looking for? Or would that be once you're done with your initial visualization and things like that?
Initially, if I don't know you, so firstly, then we ask, when is your event? Is it a day event or is it a evening flow? Of course, again, then that entire brunch party and that entire night party, which I feel the music differ, because your brunch party is more of easy going, and then you'll have your retro music playing, you'll have your 80s, and you'll have your more, you'll have more of loungy music around, you'll have more of brunchy music around, and then if you have an evening party, then you decide the flow of the evening party, how you're gonna be playing. So all that plays an very important role. And of course, knowing your client, even when you're speaking to your client, of course, when you're discussing music with your client, you'll discuss with them that what kind of music do you want. Suppose if they say we just want a bit of instrumental and up tempo lounge music, something like a Buddha bar, then we play Buddha bar around the initial 1.5 hours of the party. Because that initial 1.5 hour of the party is very important, because that decides the face of the party. A lot of people, like, for example, they want retro music at the start. You got to play a lot of English retro music. So all decides, that entire thing. So it's like a building, because you're building it up, right? So that entire base and that entire foundation of the party is very important.
I feel like Punjabi parties are easier to DJ. Basically, you play Rail Gaddi Aayi somewhere in the middle and everybody just starts running in a circle. And then you play a bunch of
Punjabi parties, Punjabi parties are, of course, like I'm a Punjabi, so Punjabi parties are easy, but then the Punjabi parties, even they go with the flow, they say now once your entire high and flow, you don't care what is being played, you're just dancing to the music.
Yeah, your BPM starts at 130, it ends up at 5,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like going ham. So what has been your favorite place to play? What has been your favorite place to play? Your favorite event?
There are a couple of places. There are a couple of events. I mean, I can't because every event has a story. Every event has its own particular story. There's a lot of stories. But if you actually tell me, my in 2010, which was my turning point, where actually started building it up was Buddha House, when that entire brunch party took place and that entire built up happened. So that was the return, that was the first party which I was actually coming back after my entire break for a year, and then it shot up since then.
I have a difficult question also, like a really difficult one. If you don't have business, if you don't have a secondary place for income, do you think financially it is like viable to sustain yourself financially completely off of DJ?
No, you can't. In today's day, you can't. Until unless you're on the top. Of course, nightclubs are paying really well and everything's doing really well, but you have your own expenses as well. And you have to have an alternate line of business. That's what I feel. I mean, every person has its own individual thing, but you have to have an alternate line of business in today's date.
So what's like the best way for customer acquisition in
like
this
the best way of
customer acquisition? How do you reach out to people and how do you build clients?
Yeah, I feel in today's day, it's like word of mouth. And you just have to give your best into every party that you go to play. Because I feel that every good party, you add on to 3 more clients. And if you have a bad day, then you lose out on 3 clients. That's how I look into it.
Big red button down there says subscribe. Click it now. Click it.
Dhruv, how do you choose on a style? There's a lot of DJs who do a lot with the mic. They'll speak a lot. They'll, try to amp up people using a mic. And whatever I've seen of you, I have not seen you do that. You like a more passive approach where you're allowing things to flow more naturally. So how did you end up on that? Is that just the way you are as a person? Is that something you adopted? Is that something you realized? What was that all about?
So I am a person who I won't speak too much on the mic. Like if there's any particular request or any particular announcement or something, because I let the music talk for me. So for me, once I'm behind the console, I'm a very different person. So then I'm not Dhruv Bhatia, then I transform into someone else. Then I'm just into the flow of music and I'm just playing. And of course, I don't know if I've never spoken to you regarding this, but I get shit nervous before every show of mine. So every show till date, I am so nervous. Like everyone in my house knows. Like 2 days before this, if there's a show after 2 days, no one's supposed to disturb me. And on the day of the show, so not at all. So it's like you're so thing in your head, because I'm a very superstitious person. I need everything in place. So that's how I've grown with my team, even because I have a good team with my entire sound technicians and my entire assistants and everything. So they're a good team. So before every show, even they know, like my technician, like my technician will come and do all the setup and everything. And my entire console needs to be set, my entire equalization, everything has to be done. And once I'm behind the console, then I don't want anyone near me. It's just me and my music. That's how I follow. That's how it's
So
been
is
going.
that something you always had, or was it something that developed over time?
Yeah, it develops over time because you grow. I mean, with every event, every passing event, you grow. You learn a lot. It's like a story. That's what I just said. Because with every passing event, you're growing. Of course, we have our own. Every DJ has its own ups and downs. They have their own difficult phases. There are phases where things aren't going right. But yeah,
Does it ever get repetitive?
it depends, because if I have a 3-day event, I would like to play different genres for all 3 days. So that's how we prepare and that's how we plan. So every event and everything has to be different. So that's how our approach is, because you can't be playing the same song and the same thing every day, then people get bored. So that's how we prepare, and then preparation comes in as a very big aspect and a very big part in DJ. You got to be knowing your music, you got to be knowing your client, you got to be knowing what you want to be playing.
Do you listen to music in off time?
Yeah, so I have a mini studio at home. So I come and I practice every day for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. So that's like my, that entire stress. So that's my stress buster. So whenever I'm upset, I play music. When I'm happy, I play music. So that's like my stress buster. Every time you're tired, you come back from home. You come back home from office and all. So either you're downloading music or you're playing. So, but I play a lot of music at home.
What does a practice session look like?
A practice session. It depends on your mood. What you want to be playing that day. It's just like, for example, if you're in a mood for good house music, then you're playing a lot of good house music. If you're playing retro, then you're playing a lot of retro music.
No, so my question was more based around, do you use your practice session to explore new songs and new things that you haven't done before? Or do you also have a visualization for what you're going to play when you're practicing? Or is that, ho- what are you doing? What does that look like?
I visualize a lot when I'm practicing. It's because you're trying out different songs, you're trying out different genres, you're trying out which song matches with which song. That flow. That's what I told you. Flow is very important. So for us, when we're actually standing behind the console, we're actually preparing 3 songs ahead of us. What's going to be playing one after the other. So that's how we channelize the entire thing, because you're right. You have to be ahead of your game. You got to be ahead of what the crowd wants, and so basically that you got to be concentrating and thinking what you're going to be playing next. So at home, even we do that. We try to mix and match a lot of songs. What could go, what can go, because there's so much of new music coming up every day, and so many new remixes coming up every day. So it's good, yeah, because you've been constantly thinking, and so that's how we prepare.
how do you keep up with all the new things that come up out, like, because there are new music, new remixes coming up every day. Do you, is your team also a part of sending you new music? Are you the only one who looks at new music? How does that go?
Also, I want to add to the question. So, very similar lines, I personally have a big issue. All the music that I'm listening to, I'm stuck like 3 years back. Other than like very high pop music that is very trendy now, it is very difficult to find good music in this ocean of music that has just, SoundCloud, everybody's uploading music, and YouTube music is full of new artists. How do you simplify? What's the method for like a common person like me?
Yeah, it's very simple. You take one, so you take one DJ from every genre who's preparing good music, who's a producer, who's been producing good music for a really long time. So for Punjabi, if I actually ask you, a Punjabi in today's day, 90% song must be of AP Dillon. That if you go to a party, you listen to. So that's the trend right now. Before that, it was Honey Singh. So that's how, like every 3 years to 5 years, the trend changes.
Does it take 3 years to 5 years?
So every artist who comes in, like if you have AP right now, AP Dillon has been, I mean, it's been there for a while now. So before that you had Honey Singh.
2020 AP Dylan Brown Munde comes out, and after that he just pops.
Then you had Honey Singh before that. Then you have Badshah who's been continuing for so long. So it's like that entire trend is there, So every genre has a particular form of DJ. Then you have these really good producers who've come up. You got a really good, like we had during our time. We didn't have too much of access to so many. We didn't have too many producers around that time because producers weren't known. There weren't too many producers.
How do we find them?
Yeah, so we still remember because we used to buy these CDs. We used to go to Vardhan market and we used to buy these CDs. So there used to be these assorted CDs which used to come out. So then around that time, these assorted CDs, then we used to figure out, which song. So during our time, this fellow was really big. Himesh Reshamya was really big, if you still remember, because so that time Himesh Reshamya was really big. And then you keep on, so you got to be up with the music. You got to know what is happening around. And for your international music, of course, now you have so much of access to global music all over. So that time we didn't have that time. We had Pitbull, David Guetta, and only people.
So again, Dhruv, how do you explore? What do you find? How do you how do you purge the ocean?
So you gotta be listening. You gotta be sitting on YouTube, and you got to be like, I follow a lot of beatport music for my international music. So I follow a lot of beatport music because beatport has a lot of international DJs and artists putting up the music on site. Then you have a lot of SoundCloud. So SoundCloud is again, you can listen to a lot of SoundCloud music. And for Bollywood, so we listen to YouTube and we listen to other channels which we can to download.
You use your team for this, or is it just you?
It depends if any particular, see, your preparation has to be on your own because you got to know your own playlist, you got to know your own music, But if there's any particular good mix that my team has, or if there's any particular good mix that I could, use, so then of course we take it from them. But I believe your entire playlist has to be your own because then it's like a notebook, you know what is written inside.
I completely agree with you there. I am talking more in terms of new music. Like when you are building your playlist, when you're trying to change your playlist, how much are you relying on other people apart from yourself being like, oh, I heard this song, this is great. Oh, I'm going to send you this song. Or
then that thing comes into place. Then that role comes into play. Of course, then we have Shazam. If we go to a particular place, we like the music, we just Shazam it, download it. So that comes into play.
Criticism, feedback, questions. Write whatever you have in the comments below. We look forward to hearing from you.
Is your family more accepting now of
Yeah,
your
now
DJing?
so they're really proud. Yeah. After that journey, yeah. Because they've seen the struggle and they've seen the passion. So, yeah. But thankfully, they never stopped me after that. They just allowed me to go with the flow and everything. Because during that time, even we used to come back home really late after the gig. And come back around 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So by day, I've been, they never stopped me for all that.
So if we were to switch, let's see Dhruv the businessman now. So what does he look like?
A businessman in the sense, like if you actually, I mean, there are two different aspects. So when you're actually dealing in business, so you're dealing with a lot of fabric and you're dealing with a lot of things. And then once you come back home, you're a changed personality, you're a different person altogether.
So let's talk about this uniform thing that you're starting up, which you called your baby. What is that? How did you get there? How is Dhruv the DJ transformed into Dhruv the businessman into Dhruv now starting another new venture?
So like my firm has been there for a while in Calcutta, where the garments and trading is concerned. So we used to get a lot of these orders from people coming in from different parts of the world. They used to come and they used to take our samples and, show it to the clients and get these orders. And then there I saw a gap, there's a major gap between the buyer and between the supplier. So because of that, so initially the margin used to be cut hold by the middlemen who were involved in between. So I saw this huge potential because you have so many restaurants, you have so many hospitals, you have so many corporates. So every corporate has its own particular form of, they want uniforms for the staff, they want uniforms for the higher executives and everything. So that is the gap which we saw, and then that's how we started building it. Then I started concentrating more on that, and then it's been good. We started off in 2020 after post COVID, and then that's how it's been a good journey after that.
So we have this thing on our podcast. We like to end with like a one-line question, like you answer in one line. If you were to go back to 2004, knowing everything that you've learned since then till now, and you were to face your parents knowing all of this and tell them something, what would it be?
I would have told them that DJing is a great industry to be a part of, and it opens up to a lot of meeting a lot of new people and, gaining a lot of knowledge and everything. So it's a great industry to be a part of.